The year is 1780. The place, Polilur. You're a British soldier stationed on a hill as your commander, William Bailey, is plotting how to get down the hill to capture the city. Suddenly, you hear something, and all of a sudden, thousands of rockets are descending upon the hill. Your body is lacerated by the sharp missiles, and the explosions injure many more. You've just experienced the wrath of Tipu Sultan and his rockets. However, these events were caused by something 2 decades earlier. The year is 1767, and as thoughts of revolution were brewing in America, something much more violent was beginning on the other side of the world. India was a mess during the late 18th century, with the powerful Mughal Empire dissolving only 6 years earlier to the Marathas. Several states and colonial powers took advantage of this weakened state. The British were one of them. After capturing the Bengal Sultanate and securing an economic stronghold on the province, they looked to expand into the rest of India, particularly in the south. They kicked out the French in the 7 Years' War from the Carnatic, securing a foothold in the south. They set their sights on the prosperous Mysore kingdom, which is the subject of this video. 6 years earlier, in 1761, Hyder Ali overthrew the Mysore monarchy, establishing himself as ruler. Ali was a commander for the Mysore kingdom, being allies with the Nizam of Hyderabad and the French during the Carnatic Wars. He was an excellent mathematician and developed a very complex financial management system in the kingdom, further boosting his popularity. Hyder Ali's rise to the throne startled the Marathas, who were eyeing up his territory, and meanwhile the British were looking at taking the northern Sarkar states from the Nizam of Hyderabad. After some attempts with the Nizam to negotiate, the British decided to invade instead. The Nawab of Carnatic allied with the Brits as Hyder was getting ready to invade them, and this set the stage for the First Anglo-Mysore War. The Marathas quickly invaded the northern portions of Mysore as the British quickly conquered the northern Sarkars, negotiating the Nizam out of the war. Hyder invaded much of the Carnatic region. However, British naval invasions of Mangalore distracted him, letting the British take it back. After dealing with the Mangalore naval invasion, he pushed the British all the way back to Madras, where peace was signed in March of 1769. The treaty returned the region to the status quo and also established an alliance between British and Mysore. However, this alliance would be very short-lived. After attempting to invade the Marathas with no British support, Hyder began to grow skeptical of his British allies. However, he discovered a new ally in the form of France, who were supplying weapons to them due to the ongoing American Revolutionary War being against the British. They supplied these at Mahe, a city along the Malabar coast. The British were furious and promptly captured the city in 1779. Hyder was furious, so he began forming a coalition with the Nizam and Marathas, as well as the French. The Second Anglo-Mysore War would start in 1780. However, it would end in no change to the border, but it showed the sheer power of the Mysorean army. Hyder structured his army in the European fashion, being trained by many French officers, but his secret weapon was the rocket. Their effectiveness was seen in the Battle of Polilur, where the British, uncoordinated and confused, established a defensive square on the high ground. Tipu Sultan, Hyder's son, got them encircled and captured the army. The rockets were fired like volleys, halting advances by literally breaking their legs. The rockets were cased with iron and mounted with 2 blades. The rocket, because of the iron, flew much further, upwards of 2,000 meters, and wreaked havoc on the army. By 1784, the Treaty of Mangalore was signed. The treaty, like the first one, restored the status quo established before the war. The general British public were so humiliated that the East India Company lost a significant portion of its stock because of it, causing it to be restructured under Pitt's India Act. This war also saw the death of Hyder Ali from cancer, leading to his son Tipu taking over. The northern Sarkars that started the Second War were fully annexed by the British in 1788. This increased tensions between Mysore and Britain, with the Nizam allying with the British. The subject of the Third War was the state of Travancore, a state along the Malabar coast, which was a British ally. Tipu Sultan, trying to put down a rebellion, sent troops into Travancore to quell the escaping rebels. Travancore thought this was a declaration of war, and in response, declared war on Mysore. The Third War was a very one-sided war, with every major Indian power declaring war on Mysore. Tipu Sultan also had to quell several Hindu and Christian revolts, killing several of them in the process, which turned the war into a religious one. After two failed advances on the capital Seringapatnam by General Cornwallis, the Treaty of Seringapatnam was signed. The Mysore kingdom lost half of its territory, and Tipu had to give up two of his sons to prevent him from not obeying the treaty. Mysore's greatest ally during the time was France, who at this time was ruled by Napoleon. Napoleon wanted to invade British Egypt in order to connect with Mysore. Britain caught wind of this and kicked the French out of Egypt. Britain then set their sights on Mysore, starting the final Anglo-Mysore War in 1798. Tipu Sultan went all out on the rockets in the final war, with over 20,000 rocket men firing on the British. The final battle of the war was the siege of the capital Seringapatam. Some British troops shot a rocket magazine in Tipu's fort, causing it to explode into large plumes of smoke. 2 days later, on the afternoon of May the 4th, Tipu was shot by David Baird's division, and the war ended. The Mysore kingdom was now ruled by the Wadiyars once again, but this time under British rule, and much of South India had also been annexed by 1799. The war also brought many innovations in rocket technology, because the Mysorean rockets were taken after the war ended. William Congreve was also very interested in the rockets, inspiring the Congreve rocket. The rockets were then used in the Napoleonic Wars and the Wars of 1812, where the Star-Spangled Banner line, a rocket's red glare, originates from. The Wadiyar dynasty still lives on today, with its kings ruling the now-defunct kingdom. The rockets Tipu Sultan invented were called by Indian scientist APJ Abdul Kalam as the first modern rocket, and a painting of Tipu Sultan is displayed at the NASA flight facility to honor him. I hope you enjoyed this short historical documentary, and have a very wonderful day.